Hello and welcome to Climate Check with me, Mary Mwiikisa. Today we're focusing on environmental protection and climate justice, and we'll be addressing some of the works that the ZAFFICO is doing in Zambia in this regard. We take a short break. Join me on the other side. Now imagine if trees could provide Wi-Fi. Just how many trees you would plant? Well, they provide oxygen. We definitely cannot do without it. Destruction of nature, such as forests, has led to irreversible climatic changes to our world. Join me as I talk to policy formulators, change makers, and climate change interest groups on Climate Check, weekly on this channel. Now you are the solution to climate change. This is Climate Check, and I'm joined in studio by Ms. Irene Chipili, who is Head Commercial at ZAFFICO. Thank you so much for being on Climate Check.
Thank you very much. I'm happy.
You've not been on this show.
No,
it's your first time.
It's really humble to be invited.
Now I look like I haven't been inviting you. You're busy. Now let's appreciate your organization's focus in Zambia.
Thank you. So ZAFFICO is full name Zambia Forestry and Forest Industries Corporation. ZAFFICO PLC is Zambia's largest forestry company.
Okay.
We have a long history of forestry management. Initially, we started off as a department under Forestry Department in 1982 as Industrial Plantations Division. So we were under the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources as a directorate. Over the years, it was commercialized. We were one of the subsidiaries under ZIMCO, but very happy to state that in 2020 we actually got listed on the Lusaka Securities Exchange. So currently we are one of the subsidiaries under the Industrial Development Corporation, IDC, with government being the major shareholder with 63% shares. So in terms of our geographic reach, just to make people understand, we initially started off our operations on the Copper Belt. We are now in 5 provinces of Zambia: Northern, Wapula, Muchinga, and Northwestern provinces. Our business focus is, in a nutshell, is to establish and manage exotic industrial plantations. So we focus on growing pine and eucalyptus, which are both exotic species here in Zambia. But in addition to that, over the years, we've also enhanced our value addition drive. So we are very strong in value addition on our products. Initially, we started off with a pole treatment plant in Kalulushi in 2018, where we produce treated poles that are used for fencing, construction, or transmission purposes. Very happy to state that we've taken other investments in the last few years. So before the end of this year, for instance, we'll have sown timber onto the market. We've already commissioned works or investment works into establishing a particle boards factory, and subsequently we hope to move into plywood. So you can see that we have transformed ourselves from basically managing forest plantations to value addition as well for the sector.
What role does your company play in climate justice and environmental protection?
We see ourselves as playing a very significant role. First of all, just demonstrating from our expansion as a forestry company, we hope we can be an example to others, So this is to say that we would be happy to have other players joining the forestry sector. This is an example to show the value that forests bring to the environment in terms of supporting the ecosystem, because we have seen the benefits that it has brought to our operational areas, not just in terms of contributing the raw material that we need as a resource in this country, but also the subsequent support into improving the environment in general in which we grow our trees, and uplifting or the livelihoods of the people in which we operate. If you go into areas such as Shwangando and Kawamba, which basically don't have a lot of industrial activities, and like the Copper Belt where we initially started off, you can see how beautiful it is to walk through a ZAFFICO plantation in Kawamba and just see how it just changes the freshness of the air, the beautiful environment around it. So trees by nature play a very natural role in terms of supporting the ecosystem. So with that said, we continue playing that role as a corporation.
Okay. And in these areas where you have set up plantations and where you're working, how are these communities incorporated in your activities? How are these communities benefiting from your work so that they are also agents of environmental protection?
There are lots of stages to protecting a forest that we undertake before a tree becomes mature, if I can put it like that. So throughout that process, we rely on the support of communities. So from land clearing to raising a nursery to other silvicultural activities such as pruning and weeding and so on. It's the communities that we engage in the areas in which we operate. We actually have a policy, unless it is technical skill, wherever we operate in the areas where we are in the 5 provinces, we always engage local expertise or local people for the jobs that are involved. Let me also state that, for instance, bushfires by their nature are one of the biggest threats to our forests, and in all our areas where we operate, our community members become our first security people, if I can put it like that, in terms of managing things such as bushfires. And even in areas where we have mature stock, where there's any indiscriminate harvesting of trees, it is the communities that will flag us. Let me also add that in all the operational areas where we are, we have very strong ties with the traditional leaders in the areas, because we see them as a strong channel to bridging the gap between ourselves as a business and implementing various measures that can uplift the lives of the people. So there are those that benefit directly from our operations as a corporation through employment, but we also have others that benefit from the auxiliary business opportunities, as an example. But we also implement corporate social responsibility interventions in many of the areas where we are, which benefit the communities. And at the call of identifying the causes and what we need to do, it is the communities themselves. This year, as an example, we are partnering with Ndola Fitness Squad to hold a marathon on the 8th of November, and proceeds from that marathon are going towards completing a mother's shelter at Mukutuma Health Center in Lufwanyama district. So we see an important cause towards addressing maternal health in an area such as Lufwanyama.
Okay. Who are your partners, or what kind of partners do you work with who are in the environmental space to ensure that your works are in line with environmental needs, as well as you utilizing these experts in ensuring that you work hand in hand?
Government, to start with, is a very key partner for us. Remember that forestry management in principle is a preserve of the Department of Forestry, which is under the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment. So we continue having very good ties with government in terms of seeking policy support towards not just the management of our plantations, but also even some of our value addition initiatives that we are undertaking. Government more so because when ZAFFICO originally started off, in fact, the majority of our mature stock, at the moment, for about 48,000 hectares of our plantations are currently on government land, on gazetted land, because we started off as a department under forestry department. So they've been very instrumental in helping us even with our plantation expansion programs, but also even other wings of government. If we look at the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry, and where ZANBA Development Agency is anchored, our investment initiatives have had to get support from agencies such as ZDA, Zambia Revenue Authority, Ministry of Finance. So there's a whole chain of government support required to make us sustainable as a business. The traditional leaders, as I said, our our forest expansion activities have needed additional land, but even where we are already operating, just support towards managing and getting community support towards that. So, and there's also research, the academic institutions such as universities, like many other sectors, we need to mitigate in the climate change area in particular. We need to look at new ways of doing business and learn from what others are doing. So we have a whole range of partners, media, for instance, this opportunity. People need to know the importance of trees and what we're doing as a corporation, not just as a business, but our overall contribution to the climate change agenda for the country. So there are many, including individuals, that just are happy to support us. So work with us in pushing our business focus.
Now imagine if trees could provide Wi-Fi, just how many trees you would plant? Well, they provide oxygen. We definitely cannot do without it. Destruction of nature such as forests has led to irreversible climatic changes to our world. Join me as I talk to policy formulators, change makers and climate change interest groups on Climate Check, weekly on this channel. Now you are the solution to climate change. Now, beyond the profits, how are you ensuring that your work extends to changing the mindset of other corporate entities to ensure that they plant trees and these plantations or whatever it is that they're doing is successful? Because we've heard a lot of companies talk about tree planting, and I believe your organization should be key in ensuring that this happens successfully.
Sure. I think to start with, we are happy to demonstrate and show that we can sustain a business through planting trees. Here are we as an example to demonstrate that. And I think that the fact that we see more and more schools, organizations venturing into tree planting is arising from a realization that trees can add value to our environment. One of the strategic roles we have done over the years is to ensure that whenever somebody comes, and I've said this before, that whenever somebody has come to us and said they want to plant a tree in July, we said, no, we won't do that, So for institutions that are doing it, because now we are all being environmentally compliant, so we have ESG policies, we have to comply, we have to show the numbers. Planting trees at the right time is very important because we need to ensure that there's less mortality, they survive, and we are truly adding to the goal of increasing the number of trees in the country. So ours is a mission to demonstrate the value of trees and to encourage more to venture into tree planting. So beyond institutions, over the years, we have started on a very small scale, offloading, subsidize, and in some cases, depending on the nature of institution, we actually give donate some seedlings for institutions like schools, civil society organizations that are working towards a climate change cause. So we hope we can upscale that program to encourage individuals in Zambia. There are families that have large portions of land passed on from generation to generation, and yet are very idle. You could actually utilize that piece of land by planting trees.
Okay. How then do you link your organization's focus to attaining Zambia's climate mitigation and adaptation targets?
I think that one of the ways in which we have done it is through our collaboration, for instance, with strategic institutions such as the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment, understanding what the country needs are and where we can play a role in this goal towards climate change adaptation. So that has helped us really look at our own operations. The fact that we are focused on establishing and managing exotic trees by the nature of our business, we are now really looking at our own operation and seeing what value can we draw, for instance, from the indigenous trees that are already sitting on our plantations, but not yet, the areas are not yet developed for exotic plantation. So we are, for instance, exploring through relevant government channels to see how best, for instance, can we venture into carbon trading as a forestry company. So there are feasibility studies that are going on. So that is a demonstration to see how can we adapt, how can we ensure that we are focusing on contributing to the general overall goal of government instead of just our initial business focus as a corporation.
What are some of your success stories, especially in environmental protection and climate justice, in line with your work?
Our plantation expansion activities are one of our success stories to show. We originally started off on the Copper Belt. We're now managing an estimated 62,000 hectares in the 5 provinces. In fact, in the next 3 years, our strategic goal is to expand that hectareage to 100,000 hectares. So in all the areas where we operate, in areas such as the Copper Belt where there's mature stock, so wherever we harvest for purposes of offloading the products to the market, every planting season we replant. So wherever the trees are harvested for business, we every planting season during the rainy season we replant in those areas. And in the newer areas where we are expanding, most of the areas we have gone to actually are degraded areas. In fact, our intention is to plant more in the degraded areas as a way of restoring them.
Yes.
So we see a very key role of helping to protect the environment, because we are replanting where we've harvested, as well as replant, as well as new planting in the new areas to expand. We've also invested in research. Right now we have 2 pilot areas in Kawambwa and Shwangandu, where we have planted a hybrid eucalyptus species or clonal species, and in these areas we're trying to test the quality as well as drought and disease resistance in the species that we're trying to manage, and early maturing stock. So in the long term, once the research is able to verify that the quality is good enough for our environment, we will then be able to plant more of those in our other areas, which will provide sufficient raw material for the community or the business, because currently the rotational years for our trees is a lot longer. Like for pine, it's 20 to 25 years, and eucalyptus, maybe between 10 and 15. So we hope to reduce the maturity period, especially for the eucalyptus, which are on a trial basis. The species that we are experimenting with we obtained from South Africa as well as Kenya. So research is really helping us as well to show sustainability and improve the business.
Do you have any outgrower schemes around your business? If not, are there any advantages that it would pose? I ask this question because we have had massive deforestation activities happening in the country, and many of these people will tell you they don't have alternative livelihoods. And because you work in communities, is it possible to co-opt these people and teach them on how best to maybe grow their own trees for charcoal production, or to just offer them an alternative livelihood through education, and how they can be incorporated in your business?
True. So one of the things we're trying to spearhead on a small scale is to see how best we can grow individual interests, particularly in the areas where we operate. As you know, our plantations are largely in the rural areas of the country. So rightly, as you said, how can we get the communities to see more value in the trees themselves, and perhaps to be inspired to venture into tree planting? So there's some conversation that is happening, including with our parent ministry, which is Forestry Department under the Ministry of Green Economy, to see how best we can strengthen our collaboration to encourage, because we have benchmarked neighboring Tanzania, for instance, has a successful outgrower scheme. So Zambia as a country has a deficit of timber, which we can help address by encouraging more individuals. So our efforts currently, where we are offloading subsidized or free seedlings in some cases, is one of the steps. We are still exploring measures to see how best we can upscale that intervention. In addition to that, we're also exploring ways in which perhaps we can go into areas such as Kawambwa, Shwangandi, where we have larger portions of land, and encourage communities to venture into other economic activities such as beekeeping or mushroom growing, as an example, or raising, tapping, to see how best they can turn to those, as beekeeping as an example, as an alternative form of livelihood.
Yes.
Rather than the common charcoal production.
Okay. And as I let you go, how do you measure your contribution towards Zambia's sustainability agenda?
We would say great, very, very good. The forestry sector has a huge role to contribute to growing Zambia's economy. If you just look at the expansion activities that have taken in the construction sector in this country, and people can see it even at an individual level, how many people are building their own houses, how many building projects do we see, all of them relying on timber as one of the forms of materials to support that activity. If we look at the growth of the energy sector, governments go towards increasing access to electricity in this country and our reliance on transmission poles. So we are challenged as a forestry company to actually be a bit more sustainable and continue supporting government's agenda of bringing development to Zambia, and also supporting individuals implement different projects in this country.
I'd like to thank you so much for making time to be on Climate Check.
Oh, thank you.
And hoping to see you more.
Sure. Thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome. This is Climate Check. I've been talking to Irene Chipili, who is head commercial at ZAFFICO, just helping us appreciate the role the company plays in climate justice and environmental protection. We take a short break. Now imagine if trees could provide Wi-Fi, just how many trees you would plant? Well, they provide oxygen. We definitely cannot do without it. Destruction of nature such as forests has led to irreversible climatic changes to our world. Join me as I talk to policy formulators, change makers and climate change interest groups on Climate Check, weekly on this channel. Now you are the solution to climate change. We have come to the end of Climate Check for this week. Make a date with me next week, same time, same channel. And remember to play your role in climate action. My name is Mary Mwiikisa. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.